Hey, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by. Are you ready to hate somebody with me today? Because that's where we're headed. All right, we are going to talk about the ongoing case of Madeline Soto. It's not going to take me very long to get into why her mom's boyfriend deserves to be castrated and, tons of other terrible things. I mean, this case is infuriating, it's depressing, and just overall, your heart's gonna break. All right, so let's get into it.
But to judge what is necessary to be told, it is necessary to see and hear all that is to be seen and heard.
Madeline Soto was born February 22nd of 2011 to Jennifer Soto and Tyler Wallace. Now, I don't know what their relationship status was. I don't think that they really had anything actually real because 2 months after Madeline is born, Tyler marries Tatiana. It looked like Tyler and Tatiana had been together for quite a while and like the marriage had been planned far in advance. So there's not much out there on it. I spent a long time looking through different posts online, different news reports. Through doing that, I really got to see Madeline was loved. She was very loved. I mean, she got along well with Tatiana and Tyler. I mean, there's some sweet pictures of them. I don't know how often she actually spent time with them, but there were pictures of her growing up throughout the years on, social media for both of them. I saw some really sweet videos that Jennifer's mom took. So Madeline was pretty close with her grandparents too, and there was this one really cute one where Madeline's grandmother is working at teaching her Spanish because, she wants her to speak Spanish also. And it's so cute. I loved that. It was so sweet. She was like a little baby in a high chair seat. What a sweet video. It seems like Jen wasn't as lucky in the love department as Tyler ended up being. There's not much out there on really her first husband because it seems like she had gotten married when Madeline was real young. I couldn't find the exact dates, but it seems maybe when Madeline was around 4, she had gotten married. The marriage didn't last very long and they ended up divorcing. There are different reports out online on when exactly Jen and Stephan Sterns had met, but it seems like the first actual post that was out there of them together as like an official couple was in November of 2018. They're at this really fancy like party. Jen has this really bold lipstick on. She's all smiles and, excited to show off her new boyfriend. Unfortunately, it was Stephan Sterns. It doesn't seem that Jen and Stephan had ever actually like gotten married. At least there wasn't any like photos out there of them being married. But you did see photos online of them sharing their lives together. And I mean, doing that included Stefan had moved in with them at some point. I hate looking at any pictures of him and Madeline because it's just so gross. It doesn't appear that Stefan and Jen had ever actually gotten married, but they were in a long-term relationship. There are a couple of interviews out there from people who knew Stefan specifically. There's a YouTube channel, Gray Hughes Investigates, that has done a lot of these interviews. And I mean, I listened to all of them, okay? The picture that I have of Stefan is just, this guy's fucked up, okay? Fucking weird all his life. And not in a good way, like in the worst of ways, okay? Anyway, friends had said that Stefan had lived on and off with Jen, and there's some talk about him moving back in with his parents at some point, but it's not solid exactly when he had moved out, when he had been living there. But safe to say, he was around a lot. Okay. I spent quite a bit of time thinking on how much I was going to include on what Stefan's alleged friends had come out and said in the different interviews that are out there, I feel pretty strongly, at least about some of them. So there's one person that has come out and done an interview talking about growing up in Georgia with Stefan. Now, today there was police footage that was released that showed Stefan talking about growing up in Georgia in like a more rural farm-like area. Like as a kid, it's described that his mom was really overbearing, kind of narcissistic, and just had a really weird relationship with him. Okay. This friend describes his mom supposedly buying like hustler magazines for Stefan and Stefan having like a weird sexual obsession already at a real young age, like early teenage years. And it's really gross to think about a mom doing things like that. And I mean, she was buying it for him when his dad was out of town. So I don't know how much the dad actually knew. His dad is a real estate agent, and I mean, it seems like he was pretty well off, you know? There's a story that he tells about Stefan playing in a parking lot and getting hit by a truck, like a lifted Toyota truck, and them getting a bunch of money from like a settlement from that. So I don't know if that kind of gave them a boost in life, but you know, it seems that Stefan was known to be the kid with all the new stuff. Like he would get everything, okay? And they had this weird, like I remember when I was a kid, sometimes there would be, adults all gathering together and then, everybody has their kids. They like put the kids to go play and in their area and the adults go hang out in theirs and it seemed like there was always like a weird kid that just made you uncomfortable and it kind of sounds like that's how Stefan was when he was younger. Now, their friendship ended up being cut off when supposedly again, Stefan had snuck over to their house and tried to take pictures of his mom, like through the window of the bathroom. So there's like weird voyeurism shit going on there. I don't know. Obviously, a red flag. And, in the story, the friend talks about how his dad had gone up behind Stefan, not knowing who it was, with a gun, pointed at him trying to teach him a lesson. So basically, Stefan spent years grooming Madeline. He was right there. He had access, and I don't know how it escaped Jen, but there's no evidence out yet that Jen knew. No solid evidence, at least. I do want to say it did come out that Jen is bipolar and she takes some pretty heavy medications when she goes to sleep. I have known people to take similar medication for those kind of conditions, and I know that stuff can knock you out. I feel like she had to, at the very least, been suspicious. Even though Madeline's birthday was February 22nd, they celebrated her birthday on February 25th. It was a Sunday, and there was a party that was held at her grandma's house. Jen didn't make it though. So Jen had to work that night, and I am sure that her choosing to work over going to her daughter's birthday that day probably is going to haunt her forever. Her grandparents just they decorated. It was so pretty. It looks like blue was the color of the day, and Madeline, she had a big smile on. I feel like you can see in her eyes that there's something more going on there, but she masked. And that's what she did. That's what kids who are abused do. They mask, they don't show it. I mean, not in all cases, but there are a lot of cases where kids just mask it, and you wouldn't know. And looking at the pictures, it's like you feel that something more is there, but you wouldn't actually believe it was as bad as it was. The next morning, when Madeline had to go to school, February 26th, it was said that Stefan supposedly had taken her to school dropped her off in a church parking lot, and went on about his day. The only thing about this is when Jennifer went to go and pick up Madeline from school around 4:30, Madeline wasn't there, and Madeline hadn't been at school. Madeline was close to her grandmother, so, did she go to her grandmother's? They're checking friends' houses, and they're unsuccessful in finding Madeline. So it's very hectic around this time, right? Everybody's they're searching for Madeline. There's interviews going on. Everybody's trying to get as much information as they can. Everybody talks about Jen and Stefan's interviews, but I think the interview with Madeline's grandmother is really important. I don't know if it's because she's not as intriguing to watch because nobody thinks that she has anything to do with it. She's not one that anyone's worried about. Or like maybe if it's because she gave her interview in Spanish and not everybody can understand. She had given it to Telemundo and they had posted it, but there's quite a bit in that one. She says in that interview that Madeline was always taken to school by Jen, and she talks about how she guesses Jen was just tired that morning and asked Steven to come over and take Madeline to school. I don't know if she actually did take Madeline to school. I don't know how, my thought is, I guess, maybe Jen told her that she took Madeline to school. Maybe she really did normally take Madeline to school, but for whatever reason, on that day, she asked Stefan to do it. Madeline's grandma also talks about how Madeline is scared and she always liked to sleep next to her and had a hard time with sleeping. So the 911 calls have been released, and in these 911 calls, it sounds like maybe Jennifer's sister had called in. Like, I don't know if Jennifer was on the phone with someone else trying to check on something else or what have you. I kind of secretly think maybe she's on the phone with Stefan at the time because you can hear the caller is, they're trying to report Madeline missing and, hey, yeah, I'm calling on behalf of the mother. When they ask about what Madeline was wearing, it's almost like Jen asks someone on the other line because the caller asked Jen and Jen says, "Hold on." And then the caller talks about, "Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. We're finding out." I really think that she was on the phone with Stefan at the time. Maybe trying to ask him for help, or, if you believe some of the more nefarious things out there, maybe not. The family ended up calling 3 times for the police to respond, and even Madeline's grandmother calls and is like, "Hey, what's taking you guys so long?" There is reports that the police report happened around 8. I can see that, but it also seems like they maybe were tied up in other things and didn't respond as quickly. I don't know. 3 calls is concerning, but I guess I don't know what I would do in that situation. I feel like a minute would feel like 3 hours, maybe more. So, especially since, they mentioned in the call even that they're behind on the time. At this point, they have the idea that 8 o'clock in the morning was the last time that she had been seen. That's the last trace of Madeline, and nobody knows after that. Everybody's kind of going with the theory that maybe she was kidnapped at this time because she was dropped off at the church parking lot. And then like when the grandmother in that interview, the grandmother starts talking about what Madeline had been wearing. Okay, she had been wearing the green sweater. I think that they did actually see the footage from the church parking lot, but I don't know that it was actually ever Madeline. It had to have been somebody. Like, I'm not saying that nobody was there, but from what I understand, the footage is very grainy and you can't really see any details. So just this girl, this person is sitting on the sidewalk going through a backpack and then they walk off. So it sounds like they did see the video, but it hasn't come out to the public yet. So we don't know exactly what was seen in that video or, where the video exists at. The next day, February 27th, so now we're on Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. The search widens, okay? So now this is where we start getting the interviews with Jen. We're getting the interviews with Stephan. They're searching all over. The missing posters are going up, and the community just really goes to do their best to find Madeline. The interviews that happen on February 27th with Jen and Stephan, they're really uncomfortable to watch. So in Jen's interview, she seems detached. I don't know if this is her medication or some kind of side effect of her bipolar disorder, but she seems detached. I imagine she probably doesn't even believe what's going on is real. I mean, who would want to believe that that's real? You never want it to happen to you. You never think it would happen to you. And then when it does, you're just in shock. So I'm wondering if maybe it was like some kind of shock response for those people out there that feel like Jen had something to do with it. They look at it and they say, oh, yeah, no, she's guilty. You can see it. I don't know. I don't like to comment on that until we actually have proof. Now, in her interview, that sneaky fucking snake, Stefan, he goes behind her. He's standing at the counter behind her. He's real interested in what she's doing. But he doesn't like sit next to her. Like I feel like if he had sat next to her at that time, it wouldn't be so awkward, but him just standing in the background it's creepy, okay? No. Now, there's another interview where they are sitting together. There's another portion where they're sitting together and she's like comforting him because he's all sobbing and crying and he's an emotional wreck. Fuck him. He's an emotional wreck because he knows his life is fucking over. They are finding out. All right? Now, you know what he does to make himself so super fucking suspicious? All right, so the day before, the police are talking to him and they're like, yeah, hey, we need your phone. So he hands them the phone. But get this. He says, I factory reset the phone. It was an accident. You can't accidentally factory reset your phone. I'm sorry. No, you can't. It's not an accident. Maybe if you have like a toddler touching your phone, maybe somehow they find their way to it. But as a grown ass adult, accidentally resetting your phone, factory resetting, no, that doesn't happen. And anyway, it didn't help because you know what? The FBI has got some amazing technology. All right. Law enforcement, they have tech people that know how to go in and recover whatever had been lost. Okay. Stefan's interview. He does his own interview and he's talking to them on his own. He's crying. Oh, I can't believe this happened. Blah, blah, blah. He reiterates his story. Okay. And he even has to add on this like weird thing. He says, "Oh, yeah. Well, when I drove her to school, she slept most of the way." Kids don't sleep on the way to school like that. They don't. Kids have those fucking Energizer bunny batteries and they are up. Whether they're happy or not, whatever. They could sit in the car angry in silence with you while you drive or happily talk about how great the day of school is going to be. They're awake. They're not sleeping on the way to school. And Stefan tries to say that she's sleeping. Okay. He's crying. He's upset. Nobody likes him. So, like, fuck his tears. His tears are, in my opinion, very, very much selfish because he's going down. Okay. In both of their interviews, they also kind of go back and forth in using like we and I or him interchangeably. So, for people who believe that Jen had something to do with this and she was on the drive and whatever, helped dispose of Madeline, people who believe that take that we to be a slip. I wonder if it's more at that point she had wanted to identify herself with him so much that it kind of was an interchangeable thing for her. Either way, weird, bad, okay? I don't like it. Another thing that really frustrated me about Stefan in particular, he's asked a question about, obviously, like what happened that day and everything. And he says, this is the very last moment he says that he saw her. And the last thing that he said to her was he let her out of the car at the church and he said, "Have a good day, love you." And she said, "Thanks, love you too." Ugh, gross. For him to actually say that she said those words to him, like, I know it's a normal thing that people say and everything, but fucking gross. He had to add that in? Really? Ugh, this guy is a fucking creeper, okay? And I'm serious when I say you are gonna hate him at the end of this. We're about to get into it, okay? Get ready. Stefan thought he got away with the stuff he had on his phone, but he in fact did not. When the police actually ended up getting into his phone, because they're suspicious, like red flags off the bat. They probably already had red flags because, naturally you think it's gonna be somebody close to them, right? Because statistically, that's how it goes. And the story sounded kind of weird. Him having the factory reset of his phone, that is probably just like the biggest of all the red flags. Who would miss it? Okay, the police didn't. They go in and they look through his phone, and he is the most disgusting fuck. Okay? He has explicit pictures and images that he made of himself with Madeline. And yeah, I'm talking about those kind, okay? All of it. He documented it and it was bad, okay? There's a whole list out there of all the different kinds of things that he had done to her, but he used her. He used her as an unwilling sexual partner and took photos and videos. And some people even think that he was sharing them online. We don't know yet. We don't know if that happened yet, but there is proof showing that he used a Telegram app at like 11:49 or something on February 25th. So right in the real early morning hours heading into February 26th. These pictures, these videos, the police say that they knew it was him because of a distinctive mark he has on his dick, okay? And they matched up that distinctive mark with Madeline's bedding, Madeline's underwear, Madeline's clothing, and other features of Madeline. Okay? Fuck this guy. I'm serious. I want him to suffer so bad. Okay? Now, the police find all these images and everything. And do you want to know how far it goes back? The first time that there was actually evidence of what Stefan had been doing to Madeline goes all the way back to 2019, June of 2019 to be precise. Madeline was 8. She was 8 years old. Now, there's a pattern with it, okay? The pattern seems to be that the summer really is the time where Stefan actually is doing the most abuse to her and recording it and taking pictures of it. I hope it didn't go further. I feel like it had to have, at some point. He's a sick fuck. February 28th, the police arrested Stefan for what they had found on his phone. No charges for any murder or homicide at this time, but everybody can feel them coming, especially the next day when the affidavit came out and everybody saw exactly why Stefan had been arrested for what they had found on his phone. On March 1st, the police department had come out and said that they were confident that Madeline was no longer alive. Part of this is because of footage at the apartment complex that they had lived at. Stefan had been seen on camera throwing away Madeline's backpack and school-issued laptop. Now, this was also a little bit concerning and confusing because initial reports seem to say that Jen had told responding officers that she had seen Madeline getting dressed that morning at 8 o'clock. So something's missing there. There's a piece there that we don't know. Some people are speculating, like some of the experts out there, they're speculating, well, maybe she's just doing what he's telling her to do, and maybe she felt threatened by him. Who knows? I don't know that it's enough to definitely point at Jen having anything to do with it, but it makes me really uncomfortable. None of the timing lined up with what had been told. Madeline's school was supposed to start at 9:30 in the morning, and Stephan had told the responding officers he had dropped her off at 8:40. Why then was he throwing away her backpack and her school-issued laptop at 7:35 in the morning? And more so, there is footage of him returning to the complex. The detectives, they've said that they looked at the footage, and in the footage, they can see Madeline in the car, and she does appear to be deceased at the point that they can see her in the car. So 8:19 when he's returning from leaving. I don't know how that even lines up. And I wonder too, like the whole reason that he left the apartment complex, it seems that we're not really clear where Madeline had been before 8:19. I did hear somebody on Court TV say that it seems like the way the camera was angled, you couldn't actually see that it was Madeline in the car when he was there before he left and returned at 8:19, but when he had returned at 8:19, they for sure did see that she was in the car. And I mean, if he took the route to go by the church, I could see him seeing somebody in the same colors that he had Madeline in, or, you know, making sure that he has a trace of him going around there, but just the time is so early, there's not going to be anybody there like there would be if he had gone at the right time. March 1st is also the day that they end up finding Madeline. It seems that somebody had called in and given them a tip that Stephan had been seen on the side of the road. He was driving a Lincoln car. It's like a silver colored car. He was seen changing a tire, like he got a flat tire over on Old Hickory Tree Road. There's some contention on whether it's Old Hickory Tree Road or Hickory Tree Road. I've seen both of them. From what I understand, there are two distinct roads there, Old Hickory Tree Road and Hickory Tree Road. So it gets kind of confusing because the roads are really close to each other too, from what it sounds like. But Hickory Tree Road is really the one I think that they're thinking of when they talk about his flat tire. One of the reporters had gone out there and they had taken some videos. There's a whole vigil there for her and everything. But it's like farmland, okay? And then there was this row of trees that it's kind of like a barrier between the road and the person's private property, but in that row of trees is where Stephan had disposed of Madeline. There was a crime scene photo leaked through the sheriff's department down there in Kissimmee, Florida. And there's a lot of talk online about it. It was removed really quickly, but nothing solid. The picture is not going to be released out to the public. We're not going to actually know unless you ended up seeing it that day. You're not going to know exactly what it is. I saw different things that people were saying online. Some people said that he dug a shallow grave. Others said that he didn't and he just put her there on the ground. But either way, there she was. And he had a link out there too. Stephan has been a little bitch through all of this, okay? He has waived all of his appearances, not interested in showing up. Jen has really gone dark. It seems like the whole family has gone dark, and I mean, they're all grieving at this point, and I'm sure there's There's probably a lot of contention, a lot of anger. When you're going through the stages of grief, especially when it's unexpected like that, and then to add on top knowing what that little girl was going through, I mean, awful. I would wanna stay hidden from the public too. I don't blame them at all. So, they've all been very quiet. The police have come out and they said that Jen and all of the family members down there have been cooperating. There's not really there's no thoughts that it could be anybody else. Everybody has settled on that. At the very least, it's Stefan, and there is a portion of the internet who also believes that Jen had something to do with it. To me, the proof is Stefan. I haven't seen any proof on Jen on it, and just what a terrible thing to go through for all of them, for the whole family, except for Stefan. Fuck that guy. There hasn't really been much else that the police have released. Along with the 911 calls and the dash cam footage of Stefan, there also was comment released by the medical examiner. The medical examiner is not going to be releasing the results of Madeline's autopsy. There's a specific law in Florida that does not allow them to release the autopsy of a minor that was murdered by domestic violence. It seems like we have an answer. I mean, even if it's not like the full details, we don't need to know all the details. I mean, I'm sure it'll come out at some point, especially if this psycho makes everybody take this shit to court. The absence of telling us what happened to her tells us a lot. This girl suffered. This girl suffered for most of her life through that fucking creep. He spent years grooming her. He did awful things to her. Why was it now that she ended up becoming deceased? We don't know. We don't know the whole story. We won't know it for a while, and nobody's been charged with her murder yet. So, again, this is an ongoing story. I will do my best to keep you guys updated. I follow it closely. I've been following it closely, and my heart goes out to the family. I hope that, you can do your best to be able to get along every day in life because, I mean, how do you heal from something like that? Most of all, I hope that Steven gets his. So let's cross our fingers for karma on this one. He's never getting out. He will be in there forever. All right. Well, that's it so far for the case of Madeline Soto. Stephan Sterns has yet to be charged for her murder. Nobody really has been charged for her murder, and we'll see what ends up coming out of the trial. I will be following this one. I'll keep you guys updated. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for the support, and I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again. Bye.